just trying to find out what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that?
Okay, but don't you know?
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
All these prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta Tank Davis has finally broken his silence following his reported arrest and the shocking news that his highly anticipated fight against Jake Paul may now be officially cancelled. What was supposed to be one of the biggest boxing spectacles of the year has been thrown into chaos. Davis, already a polarizing figure in the sport, is now at the center of a fresh civil lawsuit accusing him of serious domestic violence incidents. His team and longtime coach have chosen their words carefully, offering only short, guarded statements while legal advisors work behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's most valuable promotions has begun an internal investigation, and the once celebrated November 14th event now hangs by a thread.
This is a lightweight. So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he not having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up away and fighting Lopez and Garcias and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become. Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that. So maybe.
According to documents filed in Miami-Dade County, the civil lawsuit against Davis accuses him of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. These are heavy allegations, the kind that could shake a fighter's career and reputation to the core if proven true. For now, reports confirm that the case remains a civil action, not a criminal one. Still, the public reaction has been fierce. Fans, journalists, and legal analysts alike are demanding clarity. The timing couldn't be worse, with fight week approaching and the media spotlight brighter than ever. The storm around Davis threatens to derail everything he's worked for.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested earlier this week for closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hands like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
Interestingly, Davis himself has not made a detailed public statement. Instead, the first official comments came from within his camp. His coach spoke briefly, saying Tank was doing great and that they were trying to figure out what's going on. That cautious tone suggests a team choosing silence over speculation. At the same time, Most Valuable Promotions confirmed in a public release that they have launched a formal internal review, stating, "We condemn all forms of violence. We are gathering information and will make decisions once the facts are known." Though the fight remains on the official schedule, insiders reveal that it's likely postponed, if not cancelled entirely. Prominent combat sports journalist Dame Mara posted on X, formerly Twitter, saying, "I'm hearing the November 14th event is being postponed. Not sure on the new date yet, but it's 80% certain the original show is off." The bout, initially planned for Atlanta's State Farm Arena before being shifted to Miami, was designed as the perfect clash of old-school boxing and social media spectacle, a modern hybrid of sport and viral culture.
When a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference is
From the beginning, even the rules and weight arrangements added intrigue to this fight. Davis, a lightweight world champion who normally fights around 135 to 140 pounds, was set to face Jake Paul, who walks around at nearly 200. The contract weight was announced at 195 pounds, with 12-ounce gloves, a massive difference from Tank's usual fights. Many wondered how Davis could manage the jump. He himself expressed doubts, questioning whether the matchup made sense or was merely designed for attention. Still, the magnitude of the event promised something unforgettable: a sold-out arena, global media coverage, and millions of eyes watching a collision between a YouTube celebrity and a boxing world champion.
I want to watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. You're just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think.
As the legal chaos unfolded, fans across social media began turning against Gervonta Davis. Many accused him of deliberately avoiding elite opponents such as Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez, choosing instead the massive payday offered by Jake Paul. The argument was simple: this fight, while lucrative, does little to build his boxing legacy. To critics, Tank's motivation had shifted from greatness to gain, prioritizing wealth and exposure over sporting challenge. It's a familiar debate in modern boxing, where the line between genuine competition and business showmanship grows thinner with every crossover fight.
Never fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was alright, but he was never like that. He was okay, he was some trash, he was some trash, he ain't.
Originally, Davis was expected to face Lamont Roach in a rematch following their controversial draw, a matchup that promised redemption and respect. But when the Jake Paul opportunity appeared, the narrative changed overnight. Davis's team recalibrated, drawn to a projected $50 million payday and global exposure far beyond traditional boxing audiences. Analysts like Stephen A. Smith pointed out that this shift illustrates the current state of the sport, where high-profile, viral fights often overshadow legacy-defining contests. For Davis, the Paul fight was more than a bout; it was a business empire move, one that could elevate his name to global superstardom, for better or worse.
Division where he's got killers all in his division, you know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147, you know, you look at Teo, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the world we're in. If you can get a huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed really before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then.
He
was done. Like, this is an active world champion.
But it's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons, though, if you think about it. Do you not like?
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's just, like, I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. You know, in any, like, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules, obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November, early part of next year.
Former world champion Carl Froch, however, didn't hold back. He called the situation an absolute joke. Froch claimed that a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua deal was 99% complete before Paul pivoted toward Davis, a fighter literally half Joshua's size. To Frock, that decision said everything. Paul wasn't chasing competition, he was chasing attention. If Jake really wanted to prove something, Frock said, he'd fight a man his size, not a lightweight who walks around 50 pounds lighter. His words echoed what many boxing insiders have whispered for months, that Paul carefully handpicks opponents for maximum exposure and minimum danger.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul
Eddie Hearn said it's 99% done.
Because you know what? Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get, so either Eddie's in on it or he's like this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders.
Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up, we'll have another chat as well in a...
I'm going to do some sunbathing, man.
Days, bit of sunbathing, top up the town.
Yes, I do.
Well.
Black is the number.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us, do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, aka Blickman. We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been...
But Nakisa Bidarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, stepped forward to defend Jake Paul's choice. He dismissed the idea that size would determine the outcome. Jake's heavier, yes, Bidarian admitted, but Tank's experience and timing can neutralize that advantage. He also revealed that this matchup wasn't a sudden idea. The Paul vs. Davis fight had reportedly been in talks for years, long before Jake's rumored Canelo Alvarez bout fell through. According to Bidarian, once the Canelo negotiations collapsed, Tank became the next logical opponent. He even claimed Davis had been interested in fighting Paul for quite some time.
They're gonna happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, it's gonna be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're gonna make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's gonna be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? The reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight, and people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing, and has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't gonna happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
It's always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, and for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul.
Bidarian elaborated further, saying that while Jake Paul stands taller and boasts a longer reach, Davis's experience and precision far outweigh the size gap. Tank has been fighting elite opponents since he was a teenager, he said. He's mastered timing, distance, and power that Jake hasn't faced before. Indeed, Davis's record speaks for itself, a world champion across multiple divisions, feared for his knockout power and technical skill. Meanwhile, Jake Paul is still learning the sport, having faced mostly retired MMA fighters or mid-level boxers. The matchup was risky, one fighter's experience against another's momentum.
Obvious, but so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, The jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida, and the world will be watching.
Even UFC commentator Joe Rogan has weighed in, acknowledging Jake Paul's undeniable impact on boxing. Rogan credited Jake for bringing younger audiences back to the sport and injecting new energy into boxing's entertainment model. But he also raised an important question: is Jake Paul truly ready for someone like Gervonta Davis? Rogan noted that Jake's previous opponents, from Tyron Woodley to Nate Diaz, were not boxers in their prime. Facing Tank Davis is a different world altogether. When that bell rings, Rogan said, there's no camera, no followers, no tweets that can take a punch for you. He admires Jake's courage but doubts whether it'll be enough when facing a fighter as dangerous and precise as Davis.
Fights, like, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? Like, what if you get a guy that, like, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyron.
Boxing analyst and former champion Paulie Malignaggi admitted that this matchup completely blindsided him. It came out of nowhere, he said. We've seen Jake Paul take on unusual opponents before, but putting him against a lightweight champion, that's a twist. Malignaggi praised Davis's career and legacy, calling him one of the defining fighters of his generation. He reminded fans not to underestimate Davis just because of the size difference. Tank has built a career on defying expectations, Paulie said. He represents what real boxing is about: discipline, power, and legacy.
Because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch a lightweight, can drop a heavyweight. There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you?
Adding another voice to the mix, one of Jake Paul's former sparring partners spoke out anonymously and didn't mince words. He claimed that Jake has never faced power like Gervonta's. Tank doesn't just hit, he damages, the fighter said. Jake's been in the ring with older guys, smaller gloves, softer punches. Davis is different. Once he connects, it changes everything. The sparring partner praised Jake's ambition but warned that ambition has a limit. Every fighter eventually meets the one who tests how real their courage is. Tank Davis is that fighter.
And every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight, he obviously proved everybody wrong. But I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit of weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, you know, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, you know, they train hard.
You're picking Tank by knockout?
Look, I sparred them years.
UFC legend Daniel Cormier brought a broader perspective. He argued that Jake Paul's ability to merge sports and entertainment is revolutionary. After his viral bout with Mike Tyson, which streamed on Netflix, Cormier said Paul proved that boxing doesn't have to fit old rules to stay relevant. He credited Jake for taking real risks, training seriously, and reshaping the fight game for a new generation. Whether you love him or hate him, Cormier said, you have to admit he's changed the way combat sports reach the mainstream.
Big numbers. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury. Big numbers. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxing. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was going to fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring him. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, this kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone. Fight somebody your size. Fight somebody, a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far the most credentialed guy.
And now, as news of cancellations, lawsuits, and shifting narratives continues to unfold, fans are left wondering, is the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight truly falling apart? Or is this chaos just part of a larger business strategy to drive hype before a new date is announced? Whatever the truth, one thing's for sure, this saga has become more than a fight. It's a battle of legacies, reputations, and the future of boxing itself. So, what do you think? Is this fight collapsing due to controversy and low demand, or is it a masterclass in modern promotion? Drop your thoughts below, and stay tuned for more updates as this story continues to evolve.